Welcome to today's episode of Navigating the Digital World. I'm your host, Jamie, and today we're diving into an incredibly important and timely topic: online pressure and sextortion. With the rise of social media and communication apps, teens are more connected than ever, but this connectivity comes with its own set of challenges. Joining me today is Dr. Lisa Thompson, a clinical psychologist specializing in adolescent mental health and online safety. Lisa, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me, Jamie. I'm really excited to discuss this critical issue. It's alarming how many teens are exposed to online pressures, including sextortion, which is a form of blackmail that exploits vulnerable situations. Many kids don't realize they can be targets, and that's why conversations about safety are so vital. We need to equip them with the knowledge to protect themselves.
Absolutely, Lisa. I think what's particularly troubling is that many teens feel they can't talk to anyone about their online experiences. Can you share some insights on why that might be the case? What barriers do you see that prevent them from reaching out for help?
Certainly, one of the biggest barriers is the fear of judgment. Teens often worry that adults will overreact or not understand their situation, which makes them hesitant to open up. Additionally, there's a culture of shame associated with these experiences. They may feel responsible for what happened. It's essential for parents and educators to create safe spaces where teens can discuss their online interactions without fear of reprisal. Open communication is key.
Welcome back to our series on online pressure and sextortion. In the last episode, we touched on the prevalence of these issues in teens' lives. Today, we want to dive deeper into the types of online pressures that lead to these situations. Can you shed some light on the psychological aspects of why teens might engage in risky online behavior?
Absolutely, it's a complex issue. Teens are often driven by a desire for acceptance and validation. Social media creates an environment where likes, shares, and comments define their self-worth. This pressure can lead them to share intimate content, believing it will enhance their status or relationships. Additionally, many teens underestimate the potential consequences of their actions. They might think, "It won't happen to me," which is a dangerous mindset. It's crucial that we educate them about these risks and help them understand the long-term implications of their online choices.
That's a great point. The illusion of privacy and the momentary thrill can blind them to the reality of sextortion. Speaking of which, can you explain the warning signs that parents and guardians should be aware of when it comes to their teens being targeted or engaging in risky behavior online?
Certainly, parents should look for changes in behavior, such as increased secrecy around devices, sudden drops in social interactions, or unusual emotional distress. If a teen becomes withdrawn or anxious about online activities, that's a red flag. Also, if they're receiving messages from unknown individuals or seem overly concerned about their online reputation, those are signs they might be targeted. Open communication is key here. Parents should create a safe space for discussions about online experiences without judgment, encouraging their teens to share anything that feels uncomfortable.
Creating that safe space is essential. It allows for more honest conversations. Now, let's talk about what teens can do to protect themselves from these pressures. Are there specific guidelines or strategies they can adopt when interacting online?
Definitely. First and foremost, teens should think before they post. They need to ask themselves if what they're sharing could come back to haunt them. Setting strong privacy settings on social media accounts is another vital step. They should also limit the amount of personal information shared online. Encouraging them to talk openly about their online interactions with trusted friends or adults can provide additional support. Additionally, teaching them about reporting and blocking features on platforms can empower them to take control if they feel threatened.
Welcome back to our podcast series on online pressure and sextortion. Today, we're diving deeper into how these experiences affect teens and what they can do to protect themselves. So, let's start with this. How do you think social media contributes to the pressures that lead to sextortion?
That's a great question. Social media creates a unique environment where visibility and performance are constantly measured. Teens often feel pressured to maintain a certain image, whether it's looking perfect in selfies or having an exciting social life. This pressure can lead to misguided choices, like sharing intimate images in hopes of gaining approval or popularity. Unfortunately, these images can then be weaponized by predators, resulting in situations of sextortion. It's crucial that we educate teens on the potential risks and the importance of safeguarding their digital presence.
Absolutely. It's alarming how easily these situations can escalate. What strategies do you suggest for teens to avoid falling into these traps? How can they recognize when they're being pressured?
First and foremost, communication is key. Teens should feel comfortable discussing their online experiences with trusted adults or peers. They need to learn to identify red flags, such as someone insisting on sharing more personal content or making threats if they don't comply. Setting clear boundaries is essential. Teens should understand that it's okay to say no and that their comfort should always come first. Additionally, they should educate themselves about privacy settings on platforms and the importance of keeping personal information private. The more informed they are, the better they can navigate these challenges.
That makes a lot of sense. And it seems that the conversations around consent and boundaries are more important now than ever. How can parents and guardians foster an environment where these conversations are more open and less intimidating for teens?
Creating a safe space for dialogue is crucial. Parents should approach the topic without judgment, letting their kids know they can discuss anything openly. It helps to ask questions about their online experiences, rather than lecturing. This opens up a two-way conversation where teens may feel more willing to share their thoughts and feelings. Role-playing different scenarios can also be an effective tool. It prepares them for real-life situations by discussing what they might say or how they might react. Ultimately, establishing trust allows teens to seek guidance when they do face challenges online.
Welcome back to our podcast on online pressure and sextortion, where we are diving deep into the critical conversations that teens need to have about online safety. In our last segment, we touched on the emotional impact of online pressure. Let's shift gears a bit and talk specifically about the tactics that predators use to manipulate young people. What are some common methods that teens should be aware of?
Absolutely, it's crucial for teens to recognize these tactics. One common method is called grooming. Predators often create a false sense of trust, sometimes posing as peers or even friends. They may start by building a rapport and gradually introducing sexual content to normalize the conversation. This can make it easier for them to request explicit images or videos from their targets. It's important for teens to understand that this is not just harmless flirting, it's a manipulative strategy.
That's a really important point. Building that rapport can make it hard for teens to see the danger until it's too late. Alongside that, there's also the issue of peer pressure. Many teens might feel compelled to share personal content just to fit in or to gain approval. How can they navigate those social pressures while still keeping their personal boundaries intact?
Navigating peer pressure can be tough, but it starts with education and self-awareness. Teens should be taught to recognize their own values and understand that their worth isn't tied to the approval of others. Encouraging open conversations about consent and boundaries can empower them to say no when they feel uncomfortable. Additionally, it's vital for them to have trusted adults they can talk to, whether it's parents, teachers, or counselors, so they feel safe reaching out when they're in those pressure situations.
That's a great approach. Creating an environment where they feel safe to express their fears or concerns can really make a difference. What about the role of schools and communities in these discussions? How can they further support teens in becoming more aware and resilient against online pressures?
Schools and communities play a significant role in this. They can implement comprehensive digital literacy programs that cover online safety, the implications of sextortion, and how to recognize unhealthy relationships online. Workshops and seminars can engage both students and parents in these conversations. Schools can also create a culture of openness, where students feel comfortable discussing their experiences without fear of judgment. Involving parents in this education process is essential, as they can reinforce these messages at home.
Welcome back to our discussion on online pressure and sextortion. In our previous segments, we've touched on how pervasive these issues are among teens. Today, I want to dive deeper into the role of social media in amplifying these pressures. So, guest, can you explain how social media platforms can contribute to the risk of sextortion and online harassment?
Absolutely. Social media is a double-edged sword. While it allows for connection and communication, it also creates an environment where users, especially teens, can feel pressured to share personal information or explicit content. Many teens feel that sharing these types of content is a way to gain acceptance or attention. Once that content is out there, it can easily be manipulated, leading to situations where predators can exploit vulnerabilities. We need to teach teens that once something is shared online, control over that content is lost.
That's a crucial point. It's not just about the content itself, but the consequences of sharing it. Let's talk about the emotional impact this can have on teens. What signs should parents and guardians look for to identify if a teen is experiencing pressure or is a potential target for sextortion?
Great question. Parents should be vigilant for changes in behavior. This can include withdrawal from friends and family, sudden changes in online activity, or becoming overly secretive about their devices. Additionally, if they seem unusually anxious about their online presence or have unexplained stress, these can be red flags. Conversations about digital boundaries should be encouraged. Open communication can help teens feel safe discussing their experiences, which is vital in addressing these issues early on.
It sounds like creating an open dialogue is essential. What practical steps can parents take to foster this kind of environment at home? What strategies would you recommend?
First, parents need to educate themselves about the platforms their teens are using. This includes understanding the privacy settings, the types of content shared, and even the risks involved. It's also about creating a non-judgmental space. When teens feel they can talk openly without fear of punishment, they're more likely to share their experiences. Regular check-ins about their online lives, coupled with discussions about healthy relationships and boundaries, can help. Encourage them to think critically about their online interactions and share stories that may relate to their experiences.
That's excellent advice. It seems like education is key, not just for teens, but for parents too. What role do schools play in this equation? How can educators help mitigate these risks?
Schools have a vital role in educating students about digital citizenship and online safety. Comprehensive curriculum programs can teach kids about the dangers of sharing personal information and the importance of consent. Schools can provide resources for students to report inappropriate behavior and create an environment where discussing these issues is normalized. Workshops or seminars involving parents can also extend this education to the home, creating a united front in promoting safety and awareness. By engaging both students and parents, we can make a stronger impact.
As we dive deeper into this topic, let's talk about the role of social media in amplifying these pressures. Teens often feel a constant need to curate a perfect online image. How do you think this contributes to the risk of sextortion?
Absolutely. Social media creates a platform where validation is often measured by likes and comments. This can lead teens to share more personal information and images, thinking it's just a part of fitting in. Unfortunately, this desire for belonging can make them vulnerable to manipulation. Predators exploit this need by pretending to form a connection, only to later threaten to expose intimate content if the teen doesn't comply. It's a vicious cycle that can happen quickly.
That's a powerful point. So, what can parents and guardians do to help teens navigate these pressures? It's crucial they understand the signs of sextortion and online predation. What advice would you give to them?
Communication is key. Parents should cultivate an environment where teens feel safe discussing their online experiences without fear of judgment. It's important to have open dialogues about what they're sharing and who they're sharing it with. Additionally, educating both parents and teens about privacy settings on social media and the importance of limiting personal information can be powerful tools. Role-playing scenarios where they practice how to respond to inappropriate requests or advances can also empower them.
I love that idea of role-playing, it makes the conversation relatable. What about the emotional impact? How can teens cope with feelings of shame or isolation if they find themselves in a sextortion situation?
The emotional toll can be significant. It's crucial for teens to know they are not alone and that it's not their fault. Encouraging them to reach out to trusted adults or friends can provide a support system. Schools can also play a role by providing resources and counseling services. It's important to normalize seeking help. Additionally, engaging with communities that focus on resilience and mental health can help them process their experiences and regain their confidence.
That's such an important message. Finally, let's cover reporting mechanisms. What should teens do if they find themselves targeted by a predator or in a sextortion scenario?
First and foremost, they should never feel like they have to handle it alone. They should report the incident to the platform they're using, as many have specific procedures for handling such situations. Additionally, law enforcement can be involved, especially if threats are made. There are also organizations dedicated to helping victims of online exploitation. Encouraging them to document everything, like messages and interactions, can be incredibly helpful when reporting. It's about empowering them to take action and assert control over their situation.
As we wrap up this important conversation about online pressure and sextortion, I want to touch on the steps parents can take to foster open communication with their teens. What advice would you give to parents who might be worried about their kids navigating these online spaces? How can they approach these discussions without making their teens feel attacked or judged?
That's a great point. I think the key is to create a safe space for dialogue. Parents should start by expressing their own concerns but also their trust in their teens. It's crucial for parents to listen actively and validate their teens' feelings. Instead of launching into a lecture, they might ask questions like, "How do you feel about the things you see online?" Or, "Have you ever felt pressured in any way on social media?" This opens up the floor for teens to share their experiences and makes them feel respected, rather than cornered.
Absolutely, and it's vital for teens to know that they can turn to their parents without fear of punishment. As we conclude, what final thoughts would you like to share regarding sextortion and online pressure? What can teens and their support systems do to stay informed and safe in such a rapidly evolving digital landscape?
I would encourage both teens and parents to stay educated. Schools and community organizations often provide resources and workshops on digital safety. It's essential to know the signs of manipulation and understand that no one has the right to coerce or shame them. Encouraging teens to report incidents, whether to a trusted adult or law enforcement, is crucial in fighting back against perpetrators. Ultimately, building resilience through education and open dialogue can empower teens to navigate these challenges more effectively. Thank you for having me. This is such an important topic.